Hi, I'm Alicia, just another mom trying to get her shine back after having 3 kids and trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing in the process. I constantly wish there were cheat sheets or a playbook to fall back on, and I realize this is so much harder than my day job writing for tech companies. So what did I do? Scour the internet looking for help. I thought, there's gotta be a better way. I'm on a mission to simplify parenting by interviewing professionals, workplace experts, and other moms that I admire. Join me on the journey to figuring it all out. I'm your host, Alicia Garibaldi, and this is Momshine. Hello, and welcome to Momshine, your place to unplug, unwind, and hit unsend. We have a great show for you today. As parents, we have certainly seen our share of kid rebellion. Am I right? And if you have more than one child, you would think that by now we would be experts on the subject. Well, I have 3 kids, but was totally blown off course when one of them flat out refused to do what I asked them to on a recent family outing. Knowing what the outcome would be for them, I just felt reactive and at a parenting loss. I started reflecting back to our first episode where I could not turn my own inner chaos into calm. I started yelling, and I was the one who needed the timeout. It didn't help that I felt like crap, and then I had the guilt of taking it all out on my kids. So when this recent incident happened with my child, I knew I needed more parenting tools to get through this. Today, we'll talk about the conscious parenting approach and the 3 R's: retaliation, rebellion, and resistance, and what's the best way to handle an explosive situation with your kids. But it goes even deeper than that. Did you know that just learning what your hardwired triggers are will open the door and enable you to hear what your child is actually saying? Today, we'll talk with conflict resolution specialist, #1 Amazon bestselling author, Katherine Sellery. She'll tell us how to stop habituated, toxic responses so you can accomplish mastery over communication, have a choice over your responses, even when you're being triggered, and how to reset your approach to parenting for any situation. But before we talk with Katherine, I want to tell you that later on the show, our very own yoga guru, Courtney Harris, will tell us how to maintain inner calm and steadiness regardless of the external circumstances going on. She'll share with us an inspirational quote by Eckhart Tolle, and we all need a dose of this wisdom as moms. And on Kids Corner, we ask the kids, what would your yes day be like? You will not want to miss what they had to say. What's wrong, buddy?
I need to do buddy.
We went to the basketball game. That was the one she had today.
I want a movie.
No, we're not going to watch a movie. We're going to read some books.
I just
Did you know that according to a Pew Research Center report, 62% of parents surveyed said that parenting was harder than expected? I would certainly agree to that. And it's pretty split on if parents want to raise kids similar to how they were raised or take a different approach as they maneuver the world of parenting. Well, this is the plight I was on when I started Momshine. And parenting is so personal. Every kid is different and the days are long, but the years are incredibly short. Am I right? So making it count and, dare I say, shining through it is what our special guest is all about. Katherine Sellery is an Amazon bestselling author of 7 strategies to keep your relationship with your kids from hitting the boiling point. She's a 3-time TEDx speaker, communication expert, parenting coach, and mom of 2. She's also the founder of the Conscious Parenting Revolution, and she's been helping business and family ecosystems thrive for over 20 years. Katherine, I was so excited that you found us on Momshine and are here to share your amazing insight into parenting and giving us all a nice dose of perspective to reset for the coming year. Welcome to Momshine.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be with you and your community. We're thrilled we found you too. And our desire is to support everyone who's in the bucket of parenting. And if there's anything that I can do to help anyone out there today, I'm delighted.
We need it. Even in my morning routine, I was like, I can't wait for this interview with Katherine today.
Oh, that's so great.
Just trying to do the littlest things with kids can be so hard when there's so much patience involved. So in doing my research for this interview, I loved your 3 simple steps to help with de-escalation and impulse control called ACT. Acknowledge, communicate, and target another option, right? Tell our audience about that and how it works.
Well, acknowledgement is kind of the key to everything, I think. It really just across the board in human communication dynamics with any human being, acknowledging what's going on for them, it takes away the need to keep signaling to you.
Right. Recognizing their feelings right off the bat. Like you're upset.
And their needs.
Yep.
Yes. And so, it's a feelings and the needs combo. And I think that might be one of the big distinctions in the world is that a lot of communication teachers may talk about acknowledging feelings. And I would say that's only half of it.
Right. I know. Like this morning, I could not get my 2-year-old son into school. Just every out he could take, every way he could avoid it to the point where even there and he will not go through the door.
Yeah.
So that communication is key. And especially we'll dive into like the different phases and ages. But I feel like the target another option, especially in toddler land, it's
absolutely critical.
All his teacher had to say was, remember the book we read yesterday? We're going to do that again. You want to come see it? And he was like, he ran right in.
And it's in those moments where you're just like, really? It can be that easy?
I know, but it's like finding the way when you've tried how many different ones. Yeah, it can be a challenge. It does get easier. I think toddler land is a unique area of life. Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, what a successful morning in the end, right? And there was an aha for you, which is fabulous. And just that acknowledging what's going on. If you can support them in finding that extra other, that's terrific. Yeah, it's going to make all the difference.
His teacher has a gift for that. And yes, I learn from them every day.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But how can we as parents know our own triggers? Because I did a lot of that groundwork going into parenting, but it is so important because even now and then, my partner will say, hey, you do not respond well in these certain circumstances. And I have to, which honestly, for one child, it was like her just owning her part, which was age appropriate, but really like triggered me. So how can we dig deep to our own triggers to help with our own reactions to things so that we can slow down and reset on the parenting?
This is just like the seminal issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
First of all, I don't think it's possible for us not to get triggered.
Right. Agreed.
I think that that's an impossibility. And that, I hope, brings a great big sigh of relief.
Yes, it does.
There's nothing we can do about it. We can go deep diving into all of that work. We call it the shadow work. And I love shadow work, and I've been doing it for 25 years, and I still get triggered.
Yeah. Tell me about that just at a high level. Is it kind of watching your own reactions or thoughts?
Well, the shadow is we have our conscious understanding of what we think of as ourselves. And then there's everything that we don't think of. And so when we're really looking at conscious parenting, we're looking at being more and more tuned in to what's going on in the situation. What are the underlying unmet needs? What's not on the surface? It's the reading between the lines. Shadow work is not on the line. It's everything between.
Is it recognizing the unmet need in us, kids, or both?
Shadow work is really not so much around the needs-based understanding as it is around irrational unconscious beliefs.
Okay. That are hardwired.
Exactly.
From our own, maybe old school parenting or however we were parented.
You got it.
Whatever was fed to us. Yeah.
So in those undifferentiated years of consciousness.
Yeah.
In that time where there is no other, all of that stuff is so deeply embedded in our, call it our neurology. I mean, it's our DNA. We don't even know we have a belief. We just know it when somebody's not living into it, and we get totally triggered.
Right. this is amazing and so hard for some people to do.
Well, here's the thing. Like I said, we can't go around child-proofing the universe so that we don't get triggered.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Right.
All we can do is as quickly as possible recognize this is not about what the other person did or said.
Yeah, this is about us.
As much as we want to get stuck on trying to get them to change so that we don't get triggered. And that, I guess you can say, is the first thing a triggered person does is they focus on making the other person wrong or bad for having made me feel this way. And then we try to get them to change their behavior so that we can be okay.
Right.
And it's all about manipulating the other person so that we're safer from that irrational, unconscious something that got triggered.
It is really being aware of what's the parenting play here. If there's a trigger involved, it takes some awareness of that, right? In your approach.
You got it. I mean, my experience of parenting, as a coach for a few decades now, is that more and more of the work I do with parents and families is that this isn't even about your child.
Yeah.
This is all about you. And let's support you at actually knowing when you're being triggered and how to say to your child, I am so out of control right now. It has nothing to do with you. This is not your fault. I do not want to blame you, but clearly I am experiencing a lot of feelings right now. I'm going to go take myself to my, my nook where I can just really calm down and be, loving towards self and get underneath it. Now, those are way too many words for your kids, but that's your self-talk.
But I mean, I've done that at a high level, oops, I didn't like my reaction right there. I'm going to go take a minute and come back and do that again, right? A lot of that's referred to repairing.
It's also modeling that all of us are human and we're all having a human experience, and that is okay.
Yeah. Right?
Because perfectionism, we know, is probably one of the great scions of this generation.
Yep.
The need to always be on and perfect. And oh my God, it's an albatross around our neck. The more we can model for our children that I am so clear that I am not okay in the way I'm being with you right now. And I am so clear that I need to take a minute. And I want to communicate to you right now that none of us are perfect in this family. Me, dad, mom, other mom, whatever the combination is. Mm-hmm. And we all get to be okay with the fact that we're not perfect. And that is such a blanket of love and safety to give to your family system that we're all going to let each other fall apart and we're going to let each other come back into the room and be, responsible for our own behavior. And if apology is what comes from our heart, then that's wonderful. And the other person will probably be so loving and considerate of the fact that we weren't the way they would have liked us to have been in that moment because we're being responsible for it.
Yeah, I love that. Modeling the human experience.
Yeah.
Tell me about the 90-day parenting reset, especially for parents that are struggling in a lot of these areas.
Well, all that research around changing your habits and the power of a habit. And if we've been using just this one example of when we're being triggered and haven't been consciously aware of the fact that actually, God, you know what? I just took what was actually my own trigger internally, something in me that needs to be elevated and really loved into its next level of iteration. And I vomited all over my child and I haven't cleaned that up yet. Mm-hmm. And that's part of, I think, our parenting journey is that every single one of us, our children come to us as our teachers.
I agree.
And they will push us to the edge. And, every one of them is Yoda. And we're Luke Skywalker trying to figure out how to be a Jedi. Right?
Yeah.
So if we have that vision of our children as the Yoda, the ones that have come here to teach us, then every time we're exasperated, what is it that we're learning? We're learning how to be loving towards self, filled with self-compassion, and know how to stop. Because I do think that's mastery, to stop habituated toxic responses. The 90-day parenting reset gives us the understanding and the framework over those 3 months. I coach every Monday night, the group of parents who are involved, and they're doing the training modules, the weekly ones for that week, and doing the reading and the exercises and coming back into the space. And I get to hold the space for that new response. It's like trying to train, a grip in tennis. If you've ever played tennis and you have a certain grip and your coach keeps telling you, topspin will be a lot better. You can just change your grip a little bit. How hard is that?
It's so
because
hard.
It's ingrained, right? It's ingrained in us.
It's true, though.
And that's just the reality of what it requires to be really in the process of mastering your communication, having choice about how you're going to be in that moment. And that's what I think of as conscious parenting, is that you have a little bit more say over how you respond than you did before.
I love that. Being in control and feeling in control of your emotions, right? And processing them in real time when things are chaotic. Because with kids, things are happening so fast. I mean, I have a million examples that I could use in this next question about the 3 R's that every parent experiences: retaliation, rebellion, and resistance. Very frequent R's that appear in my house with a 2, 7, and 10-year-old, right? Just the other day, we encouraged my 10-year-old to grab the shoes she needed for our walk, and she threw a fit. When I pressed her and I was like, why'd you get so upset? Or, this happens all the time. But it was like, I just didn't want to do what you asked.
That's it.
So how can we work to get underneath that, well, how can I help her recover quicker in those moments where we got to get out the door, we got to go. We're on a schedule. So you're balancing all the things, but let's talk about the 3 R's.
Yeah. Well, the resentment flows are retaliation, rebellion, and resistance, the 3 R's, the proverbial 3 R's. And those are activated by a controlling form of discipline when the other person doesn't feel that they have agency and choice.
Yep.
They don't feel their feelings and needs are acknowledged. They feel as though they're being told to do something rather than being invited and considered and having their level of objection really worked through. So in the world of nonviolent communication, it really is creating a different culture in your home, where things like deadlines become a little bit more flexible.
Right.
Where things like the quality of how we get to making the decisions that we make are looked at slightly differently. So it's a choice. NVC is a choice. Seeing that, human behavior and dynamics are coming from everyone trying to meet their needs is a choice. It's the way I see the world. Other people may see the world differently. And, if you work from a different paradigm, your outcomes could be different. Some people work from a paradigm of, I just want things to happen when they need to happen. And so that's all about getting the schedule and having the schedule work every single time, just like it's supposed to. Now, that's an idea, but I don't know if it's an idea that we want to just take at face value.
Yeah.
So when you got resistance from your daughter, she obviously was resistant to getting her own shoes because she was resistant to going on the walk in the first place.
Correct. It's like those shoes she picked wouldn't have made it on the walk. So do we let them live and maybe fail? Or when do we push? When is it our job to kind of push and be like, I know this is going to end badly? Because as parents, right, we are balancing the lessons that we teach. In that moment, if it's the best lesson and we let her kind of experience what it's like to wear the wrong shoes.
There's a rule of thumb. You active listen resistance. So you go from being the communicator trying to communicate what you want to the listener trying to understand what's going on for the other person. And so you're experiencing her resistance to choosing her shoes.
Right.
You're clearly seeing that there's a no to you right now.
Yep.
And there's a yes to something inside of her. And if I were with her, I would say, is it that you really don't want to go on a walk?
Yeah, get to the underlying. So just start being curious, asking more questions.
And is that it? Is it that she just didn't really want to go on a walk?
All I got is I just didn't want to do what you wanted. I just didn't want to do it, And
so it was, I didn't want to go on the walk.
Or I just didn't want to put on the shoes that you wanted me to put on. I wanted to go on the walk, but I just didn't want to do what you thought was the right path for me.
I see. Beautiful. So it was more about you choosing the shoes for her and her not having the choice around them.
Correct.
And then we're back to this. So do we let her just choose it?
Yeah.
And so to that extent, I would say if we let her choose it, if that would have made her feel like she was in command of her ship, and there would have been a sense of, oh, it's great, we're going on our walk, and I feel like I had choice over what I'm choosing. And mom doesn't put the other shoes in her backpack.
Yep.
For rough purposes, 2 buckets. One bucket is the children that are more what we call belongers, and the other bucket is the children we call more autonomous. So the bucket of belongers are the kids that want to please you, and the bucket of the autonomous children are the kids that are more self-determined.
Right.
And have like the need to feel as though they are the captain, choosing every step along the way of their lives at an extremely young age is prominent in their being. So those children that have that and they lead with that,
yep,
we have to parent them in a way that acknowledges this aspect of who they are.
Yeah, I almost see both in her. I see her wanting to please, but also really wanting the leadership.
A say.
Yeah.
She wants a say at the table. And the truth is that we all have within us the need to feel like we belong. We all know that's so deep. And that is not gone in children who lead with autonomy. And when this sense of, did I choose it, is arising, really the key words are, would you be willing? Because if you give it to her as a would you be willing, would you be willing is like the key phrase for highly autonomous human beings, period. And then she can choose the shoes.
Yeah. And it doesn't come up a ton, but when it does, they can dig in deep, right? As they enter those teen years on being defiant. It's kind of part of what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to like unattach and form their own tribes and hold multiple beliefs that we're here to help them through. So is there any particular advice you give to parents of teens, especially to feel more connected when they just don't?
I would say that again, my years of work in this realm has led me to understand that usually the quote unquote teen defiance is really just the 3 R's.
Yeah. And so really peeling back the layers.
You just absolutely pivot into, you know what? I'm noticing just everything about this is upsetting to you right now. And that's not joyful for me. I don't want you to be upset about this. Let's just pause for a minute and take some time to just, you and me, sit down together and like get clear about what's happening for all of us here, And that could give an opportunity for her to just feel so seen, heard, and understood by you.
Yeah, slowing it down.
Yeah, could change the whole afternoon.
Could change it all.
So it's one of those where it's like people often say to me, oh, this is going to take more time. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe it'll take a little bit more time at this instant. But I bet how smoothly and lovingly and connectedly and joyfully you go through the rest of your day together, you might have ended up spending a ton more time during the day and experiencing your own feelings during the day. A lot of times I think moms and dads and, second moms and all the rest of it are exhausted.
I know.
The bandwidth of the parent problem. And that's where self-care and the ability to care for oneself is actually totally related to your ability to care for the other.
It's so true. And that enact, the acknowledge goes so far because the next time it happens, they know they're going to be seen and heard. And that's a lot of what we all need and want.
You're modeling for your children in a powerful way that they get to take care of themselves too.
Yes.
And every one of us want our children to have a healthy self-esteem, to take care of themselves, to value themselves.
Don't go away. We'll be right back. Moms, if you're looking to surprise your kids and declutter your home, Archive turns piles of clutter into beautiful art. They make books, mosaics, and more so you can neatly display your child's great work. And the best part is, it's all stored on the cloud for safekeeping. So for personalized books and frames to display your kids' art, be sure to go to archiveapp.com and enter Momshine at checkout. That's Archive, ARTKIVEAPP.com. Okay, let's shift and talk about toddlers and all the people on the line that have toddlers that can't identify their own big emotions. And our main goal is to just keep them safe and our other kids safe. I have a toddler that likes to throw things when he's upset, break things that we're really trying to work on and show and teach along with all the siblings.
Yeah.
I learn distraction is key when they're that age to kind of get them out of the big emotions or taking a minute in their room to like, do you need a hug? But at the time, they can't even control themselves. So how do you work with parents struggling with unreasonable young humans?
Well, the guidance approach is that we guide our children and we let them know that, I get it. You are so mad right now because, and there's usually a because there.
Yeah.
And being able to say the because for them, because they can't say it themselves. Oftentimes they don't have the language skills. Just articulating what they're going through for them will diffuse them.
A lot of times, like I'll miss, they were playing, but then a toy got taken from him. And that really triggers him. And so a lot of it was like, I was letting them play while I cooked dinner. And I'm like, I don't even know why you got upset and did that.
That right there is where mom can come into the room and say, I didn't see it. I don't know what happened, but I know you didn't just get into this high emotion from nothing.
Totally.
That for sure something's happened to upset you. So you're acknowledging that this isn't out of nowhere. Maybe you did catch it out of the side of your eye that one of the other people in the room took something and that this is about unjustness,
right?
That this is wrong. And so really the response they're having is a good response.
Yeah.
And we would hope that they keep that response to what is unjust in the world deeply ingrained in their soul so that they don't become complacent. We don't want to get rid of that. Unfortunately, the perpetrator of the act is actually lost because the response is what everyone focuses on.
Right.
Happens all the time. And it's usually behind a lot of problems at school.
Yeah.
And I have a client right now, I think he's 7. We had a group session the other day. And it was about difficulty getting out of the house in the morning and mom just pulling her hair out.
Yep. I was
so
there.
Was that resistance?
I was there a few hours ago.
Right. So we got on together and what we went to from that morning, instantly, he went back to kindergarten. We just time traveled like 3 or 4 years. And he had been holding on in his little heart about an instant where he was made to be wrong, put in timeout, and his teacher made him the one that was wrong. And the person who was actually the perpetrator was invisible in this story. And his life up to that point now was, let's say over the course of the next 3 or 4 years, was one incident after another, after another, after another, after another, after another, where he held on to that pain of being the one who was identified as being wrong or bad. And he said, the girls get away with everything.
Oh, how interesting.
What I'm really highlighting here is that so often we pick sides.
Right.
Let's go to conscious parenting point number 2 today. Don't do it. There's 2 sides to every story, at least, maybe more.
It's so true. Everyone plays a part usually when there's a breakdown, and we're going to figure out what it was.
Yes. And so here's one little person on the planet right now, 7 years old, who all I did was listen to how painful and how horrible that must have been for him to not have been seen for what was really going on in the situation. And over the course of an hour, he went from giving me just the corner of his hand to wanting to just come full-fledged right in front of the camera.
Oh my, what incredible work. And to lay that and uncover that at 7, like you just cleared so many paths for him in the future.
Exactly. And then mom says to me the next day, oh my God, it was like our morning was so smooth. Like everything changed.
You got to the root of it.
It had nothing to do with the morning. And that's the thing that a conscious parent begins to really ping into is that resistance.
Yeah.
In the form of retaliation, rebellion, and resistance, right? Any one of these flows that we're experiencing, the sooner we identify and go to ourselves, I think I'm in the middle of one of the R's. I think one of the R's is here. So now I know that if I'm experiencing one of the R's, number 1 is it's a reaction to power being used over them somewhere in their lives.
Yeah.
They're experiencing the lack of autonomy or lack of understanding. They're made to feel as if they have no agency. So, earlier we were talking about like, what are one of the outcomes of children in conscious parenting relationships is that the children feel and make choices about changing the behavior. It's self-started behavioral change. We move away from this idea that other people make me change my behavior.
They learn to self-govern, and we help them figure out how to do that. Because, you can't just keep trying to get them to do the same thing over and over again. That's not going to set them up for success in the future.
It won't. And here's the thing, when we use rewards and punishments.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
If we continue to rely on this old paradigm of, all right, fine, 1, 2, and there's this counting thing that goes on, and they know that at the end, the gauntlet falls and something horrible is going to happen to them. And therefore they change their behavior before that moment occurs.
Yep.
That is the epitome of an external locus of causality, where we're not tuning in to like what's going on for the other, that they're saying no to you. Like if they're saying no to mom and dad or moms or whoever it is, the parent is experiencing, they're saying no to me and I am frustrated and I want a yes. Well, the best way to get to the yes to the outer person, you in this case, is to understand like, what are they saying yes to internally within themselves that you're getting the no? Like you're right now in this huge dance of anger and defiance.
Yeah.
You're getting angrier and angrier. They're getting more and more defiant. The dance is well documented.
Yeah.
And you as a parent have one choice not to escalate it. And that is to not get in the dance at all.
Right.
Which is tuning into what they're saying yes to when they say no to you. So we're back to that idea of including their inner world.
So let me, just so I ensure I understand, and our listeners, if I give a consequence like, that's it, I'm taking your iPad. That's it. I'm canceling the play date tomorrow. Like I've had it, I'm going to use whatever chip I have to play. Instead of that, we should.
You actively listen the resistance. You cannot use this power over, I'll take away your play date. I'll take away your favorite relaxing activity. I'll take away, in schools, they often used to do recess. And if they still do it, then I would be the first person in the classroom saying to the teacher, this is the one thing you will never take away from my child. This is the one thing that you need them to go out and run around and they need to go out and run around.
Exactly.
You will never do this again.
Exactly. I need them to have the play date or the device time or whatever. Yeah.
And so I don't want us to live in a land where I feel like I use my power and control to get you to do what I want you to do because you're afraid of me.
Right.
Fear and dependency on me will never be the cornerstone of our relationship. And I don't believe in using that as a lever to get you to change your behavior or to be considerate of one another or whatever it is.
Right.
So I have to calm down. I realize it's because I'm out of control now.
Right.
That I have resorted to some kind of enemy consciousness where I'm seeing one of you as good or bad or right or wrong. And we can't live in that land.
Yeah.
We can't. And so if I want to move out of that space again, I got to take care of me. And then I kind of got to come back in here and see you as a sovereign being who has an inner world that I'm not paying attention to. And I've got some mindset that I adopted for some reason right now that makes me think that you're just supposed to do as you're told.
And so it's taking that time when you need it to, okay, we're going to put this aside maybe for the moment, and we're going to come back and revisit your feelings around this and talk through it rationally, right? Something like that.
And or we can be a little bit more proactive and we can start to say for them what they may not have access to. Now, some kids have access and they're telling you, other kids don't.
And being curious about our parts and being curious about
their
person.
Bad place, by the way. This is not a self-shaming situation because as I said to you before, our hard wiring happened without our consent.
Right.
It just happened. We all have had hard wiring that occurred without our consent. It was the system we were born into and our parents were born into. And before that, and it goes, I call it transgenerational trauma because it is.
Yes.
And the trauma that our parents experienced has probably gone unacknowledged unless they're really conscious and they've spent time really thinking through the human dynamics that they are a part of. And for my generation, I would say it was still not common. For my parents' generation, it was extremely uncommon.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in this.
Agreed.
For example, when I would come home, we were overseas living in Hong Kong for 30 something years, and we'd come back in the summer times and I would go to my parents. And I said to my dad when my daughter was about 6 years old, Dad, I got to run to the store. I got some errands.
Yeah.
So I went to the store and I came back maybe 20 minutes later. And he said, I sent her to her room. Oh my goodness. Why? She was disrespectful. Wow.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
And he said, well, I told her I'd made her lunch and it was time to come to lunch and she ignored me.
Yeah.
And she didn't come when I told her to. So at that point I said, gosh, Dad, I'm going to go down and check in on her. I'll be back. And she was in her room crying because A, she'd never been sent to her room. And B, she'd never been told that she was disrespectful. I had no idea what it meant.
Right.
And she was completely flustered and so upset and just sobbing. And I just held her and I said, sweetie, what's going on? She said, I don't know, Mom. Grandpa got so mad at me and he just started yelling and calling me disrespectful. I don't know what I did. And I said, well, I just chatted with him. I guess it was time for lunch and he asked you to come. And she said, well, I was just finishing my drawing and then I was going to come.
Yeah.
And so I went upstairs and I sat between the two of them and I said, I think we've had a breakdown, you guys. And Dad, I guess you really felt hurt. And the word you used was disrespected, which of course is a judgment word. There's no such thing as disrespected. It's just somebody's interpretation of a situation, but he doesn't know that.
Yeah.
And so I said, gosh, you were really hurt when you'd gone to all this trouble to make lunch and she didn't come when it was lunchtime. That's right. She's got to learn to respect her grandpa. And then I turned to her and I said, sweetie, it sounds like from your perspective, you were just about to come and you just wanted to finish your drawing first. Yeah, Mommy.
Yeah.
I said, wow, you guys, I feel like we just are two ships passing in the night. I hope we can work through this. And my dad, 3 or 4 hours later, came to me and he said, honey, it's a better way.
Oh, I love that. And you said, I think it's just so ingrained in us, the word respect. Like, I just want to be, even when we first started having our calls, Katherine, I was like, I just want my kids to respect me, or look up to me. Tell our listeners about why being a trusted guide is better than the word respect.
That story about my dad, he was probably 85 and he'd certainly raised us and been triggered by anything he perceived to be a lack of respect. And this word comes up in my trainings all the time. And it's the experience that people are having that they've labeled with that word. And then they use the label of that word as justification for their response.
Interesting. But it is a power over type word.
Well, if we assume that people are only ever trying to meet their needs, it's not about respect or disrespect. It's about a conflict of us having an assumption that this is a younger person that's supposed to do as they're told, which was certainly my father.
Right.
Like she was supposed to just jump. The do as you're told approach to parenting is so pervasive.
Yeah.
It is so ingrained that I don't know how parents without support, and whether it's my training or someone else's, but some of the people on the planet who do this work to get you through all of that programming.
Yeah.
The programming is huge and it gets in the way of us seeing our children as people too, as precious human beings. We end up going off in our heads and using words like disrespect.
Being conscious is half the battle.
Yes. Because as long as we are able to just be conscious, then we're able to just step back from go, oh my God, I was being completely irrational. Look at the label I used on their behavior that led me to justifying my own behavior.
Yeah.
And then, the ability to, again, forgive yourself and be okay because now you see it and you're able to go back and say, oh my goodness, I didn't realize what was going on. And now I see it. I'm so sorry.
Imagine your parent coming to you and receiving that.
Yeah.
A lot of times parents feel like, oh, if I admit I'm wrong, then I'm not going to be like a authority figure to them. But if you picture them owning their part and how you feel, it can really, I think, help you think about how your kid can experience that too and what that would feel like to them. And it's not making you less than, it's actually making you more than to them.
That is what gets in the way, I believe, of that shift.
Yep.
And there's the belief system that kids are supposed to be obedient and compliant. They're supposed to do as they're told. And if they don't, they're disrespectful. Like that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
That one idea has taken such a deep root.
Right.
That it gets in the way of seeing children as people too.
One step to the breakthrough is just admitting and opening up.
Yes.
Well, I have one more question, Katherine.
Yes.
A lot of parents I know are raising neurodiverse kids, whether it be autistic kids, kids with ADHD.
Yeah.
What's your approach to working in those cases?
Well, I would say as hard as it is for us to find the patients for just your typical kids, you need like to double down, triple down, quadruple down on the patience factor, right?
Yeah.
You're now dealing with that neurodiversity. And I know so many families over the years who've had kids with ADHD, for example, and they are in school systems which are using sort of like the rewards and punishment approach. And if you sit in your chair and you're still, we'll give you a star. And at the end of the day, we'll count the number of stars you got from every one of your teachers and you'll get a goodie.
Yeah.
Well, that is a formula for complete disaster with a child that's ADHD. And I remember one mom coming to me and saying that their child said to them, I don't even know how to be mom.
Oh.
Right? I just don't even know how to be. Because the paradigm of kids needing to sit in their chair is another one that we get to look at. And any family who has a child, let's just focus on ADHD, knows that the last thing that kid can do is sit in his chair.
Right.
Give him a standing desk. One of the fathers of one of these childs, they got brought into school numerous times. And he said to the principal, I think, he said, look, I have a standing desk. And he said, and my dad's an attorney and he has a standing desk. And I'm pretty darn sure that, there's no way around it. Our kids are going to have standing desks.
Yeah.
And the sooner we can all just acknowledge the fact that that's who we are in this family, is we're the standing desk family, and we twitch and we walk around and we move, and that's just what we do. So let's not make that bad or wrong, right?
Agreed. I think patience is key. Varying your approach probably is key.
Yes.
Finding out what works for them.
Yes.
Again, that connection.
All of those things are beautiful. And it's all about when they are saying no to you, it's about you tuning in instantly to what's going on internally in them that they're saying yes to. A lot of times it's mastery and they're just trying to get to the next level on that, in their GameCube or whatever it is, right?
Right.
And you trying to get them to get off it right then and there is not going to happen.
Yeah, then you're
until
you're
they
at a
hit
battle.
that next level of mastery. So the conversations happen not when they're right in the middle of this game. They happen outside of the game. Right. I have a client right now whose young child, 4 or 5 year old, would just go ballistic when time came to turn off the TV. And I said, I don't think it's so much about turning the TV off, is that you're doing it regardless of where they are in the story. And that what's really going on here is that they are not going to be able to go to sleep without knowing how the story ended. Yeah. And so the next week after the coaching call, the following week, they were like, you know what? It was all about the story. Yeah. And if we would just let them finish the story, then they were fine to turn it off. In fact, they'll turn it off. Right? It's just that simple.
Yeah. Varying the approach, being there as a sounding board, and also tuning into your own triggers so that we can just be thoughtful and all do it the right way.
And the collaborative approach, yes. Right? Because if you want to change the child's behavior, they're the ones that are best suited to know what's getting in the way of them changing their behavior and what's needed for them to do that. Yeah. So again, if you want to create the self-starter behavioral change world, rather than trying constantly to figure out like, what do I do to them or take away from them to get them to change their behavior? Give that up.
Yeah.
And tune into creating a system within your family that allows for them to be really in tune with their inner world of what is getting in the way.
Yeah.
So that they're able to be considerate of like, God, I wonder what would be needed. And maybe it really is. What would be needed is for me to recognize before I go to the next level, I've just accomplished this level in my game. I could turn it off now.
Right. Expectation management, it's happening a lot in my house.
Yes.
Of like, okay, if you want to watch TV right now, we have 30 minutes. But at 30 minutes, we're going to have to, put it aside and come back to it another time. And you're going to have to be okay with that. Are we all on the same page? Great.
And you could even say, let's think about like in 30 minutes, what's going to arise for you then?
Yeah.
And have them start to think about like what's going to be arising for them. and how they might be able to manage that internal experience. So it gives them a little bit of an edge if you've done a run through. It's kind of like having, the dress rehearsal.
And sometimes it does take a few times, I'm assuming, with your reset to stick and be more and more effective over time. The reactions, I'm assuming, get a little bit less over time. They don't immediately go away. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah. And mastery of our own preconditioned understanding of what we think children are supposed to do. Mastery over like washing all of those systems and beliefs that led me to doing that original system that I had in my family. That takes a while.
Yeah.
Let alone really becoming competent at collaborative problem solving, really becoming an excellent listener. That takes a while too. So the 90-day reset, once people move through that program of mine, I have what's called maintenance to mastery, and they can pop in and out of that for the rest of their lives.
I love it. Paving the way for future generations to just hopefully, again, it's all about transforming that chaos. Katherine, I'm so glad I had you on the show and learned more about all these different techniques. I'm going to be so much more thoughtful in how I'm approaching these different situations. So thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure and an honor to be on your show.
And how can people find you?
I'd like people to go to freeparentingbook.com, and I'm going to give you my Amazon bestselling book, 7 Strategies to Keep Your Relationship with Your Kids from Hitting the Boiling Point. And that's my gift to you. And consciousparentingrevolution.com or Katherine Sellery, SELLERY.com. All of those will get you to me.
Amazing. I'm taking my free book. Katherine,
awesome.
Thank you. We hope to have you on again.
Love that. Thank you so much.
We've been talking with Amazon best-selling author of 7 Strategies to Keep Your Relationship with Your Kids from Hitting the Boiling Point, founder of the Conscious Parenting Revolution, and communication expert, Katherine Sellery. Now it's time for your Mom Shine Yoga Escape.
Hi, and welcome to your Yoga Escape. I'm Courtney Harris, and today I'd like to talk to you about equanimity. Equanimity refers to mental balance and even mindfulness. And for moms, it means keeping your heart open. And a lot of times I tell students that it's practicing life with a heart that's ready for anything. It's one of the 4 Brahmaviharas considered sublime or divine abodes of the mind. So think of it as a place to rest your heart and your mind. Unlocking equanimity involves maintaining inner calm and steadiness regardless of the external circumstances you might encounter. So whatever the situation, it's not what's happening, it's our reaction to it. And Eckhart Tolle writes in his book, Stillness Speaks, you find peace not by rearranging the circumstances of your life, but by realizing who you are at the deepest level. And that is your Mom Shine Yoga Escape for today. Until next time, I'm Courtney Harris. Namaste.
Welcome to Kids Corner. Ready? 3, 2, 1, action.
Today on Kids Corner, we asked the kids, if you had a yes day, what would you do? Let's roll our clip.
If I got a yes day, I would probably want to go shopping and spend all my parents' money.
I would like to watch more YouTube. I would want to have more time on my iPad. I want to play a lot of games that make me laugh, all that stuff.
Have a sleepover with my friends and go to watch shows.
I would go with my friends on a trip, do sleepovers, go to Disneyland.
Or go on a really long vacation to Italy and Greece.
If I had a yes day, I would go to the store and get a bunch of hockey cards. And then I would go to a Kraken game. The Kraken are a hockey team from Seattle. I really love to look on my mom's phone. They have a remote control drone, and it's really cool, and I wish I could buy it. And that's what I would do.
I wish my mom let me have a play date whenever I wanted.
and more time with my friends because I don't really get to see them that often besides school. If I had a yes day, that kind of depends on what day it is. It would probably be art or music or PE, and then the rest of the day free time. I'd do free dress, no homework, and everybody gets sweets.
I want to give a huge thank you to our special guest, Katherine Sellery, best-selling author and founder of the Conscious Parenting Revolution. A thank you to my incredible producer, June Miller, and a big Momshine thank you to you, our listeners. Until next time, I'm Alicia Garibaldi. Thanks for listening to Momshine. We'd love your feedback. Visit our webpage at momshine.co or like us on Instagram. And remember, Momshine means getting your shine back a little more each day so that we can all make a positive difference for our family, friends, and our world. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers only and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Momshine, our affiliates, sponsors, or production partners. No endorsement or any entity they represent is implied. The information presented is for general information only and does not constitute legal, financial, or medical advice.